There is a reason certain photographs stay with us long after we've looked away. It is not always because they are beautiful. It is not always because they are technically perfect. Often, it is because they reveal something deeply human: vulnerability. Among all forms of photography, nude photography has a unique relationship with vulnerability. Not simply because the body is exposed, but because the subject often stands before the camera with fewer barriers between themselves and the viewer. Yet vulnerability is frequently misunderstood. Many people think vulnerability means weakness. In reality, vulnerability is often a form of courage. It is the willingness to be seen, to exist without hiding, to accept uncertainty and still remain present. This psychological dimension is one of the reasons nude photography can feel so emotionally powerful. The camera records more than physical appearance. It records posture, expression, tension, comfort, confidence, self-consciousness. Every photograph becomes a subtle conversation between how a person feels and how they choose to present themselves. Even when no face is visible, viewers often sense these emotional qualities. A slight curve of the shoulders may communicate hesitation. An upright posture may suggest strength. Relaxed hands may reveal trust. Tiny details become emotional signals. The photograph begins speaking a language beyond words. This is why experienced photographers often spend more time building trust than adjusting camera settings. Trust creates comfort, comfort creates authenticity, and authenticity creates images that feel alive. When a subject feels safe, they stop performing. Instead of posing for the camera, they begin existing within the moment. The difference is subtle but profound. Viewers notice it immediately, even if they cannot explain why. One image feels staged, another feels genuine. The distinction often comes down to emotional honesty. Interestingly, vulnerability affects viewers as much as subjects. When we encounter an image that feels authentic, we are reminded of our own humanity, our own insecurities, our own experiences of being seen and judged. Art becomes a mirror. The photograph reflects something back to us, not necessarily the subject's body, but emotions we recognize within ourselves. This may explain why some of the most memorable nude photographs contain very little explicit detail. The power comes not from exposure. It comes from presence. The image invites empathy rather than observation, connection rather than inspection. The viewer stops asking, "What am I looking at?" and begins asking, "What am I feeling?" Great artists have understood this principle for centuries. Whether through painting, sculpture, or photography, the human form has often been used to explore universal emotional experiences. Loneliness, hope, freedom, fear, resilience. The body becomes a symbol carrying deeper meaning. In modern photography, vulnerability remains one of the most important creative tools available. Not because it creates drama, not because it attracts attention, but because it reveals truth. And truth has a unique ability to move people. Of course, genuine vulnerability cannot be forced. It cannot be manufactured through technique alone. It emerges when trust, respect, and understanding exist between photographer and subject. It grows in an environment where people feel safe enough to be themselves. This is why ethical practice matters so much in nude photography. The strongest images are built on collaboration, communication, and consent. Without those foundations, vulnerability becomes exploitation. With them, vulnerability becomes art. Perhaps that is the real lesson. The emotional impact of nude photography has very little to do with nudity itself. Instead, it comes from a deeper human experience. The experience of being seen, not for what we wear, not for the roles we play, but for who we are. And when a photograph captures that feeling, it becomes more than an image. It becomes a reflection of something universal, a reminder that beneath all our differences, every person shares the same desire: to be understood, to be accepted, and to be seen.